Alright, so this is kind of a first exploration into Augur. I have never interacted with this platform before, or their website or anything like that. I am familiar with what it is that they are doing, but I wanted to go through their site and their platform to kind of see what it's all about and get a better idea of their user experience, their onboarding, things like that. So I've opened up the main page here, and I'm going to do a quick kind of scroll through to see all of the information that is provided. Right off the bat, I can say that I very much like this immediate kind of call to action button here, getting started, kind of guiding the user through the next steps in order to kind of get up and running. Very minimal layout, not a whole lot going on, and focusing just on the main bits of information that needs to be presented. I really like how they have a very simple statement here: a prediction market protocol owned and operated by the people that use it. They also have little statements here that kind of explain, the breadth of what it is that you can kind of essentially bet on, predict the next election, short a cryptocurrency, or hedge against a disaster. So use cases for Augur: political forecasting, event hedging, weather prediction, company forecasting, the Augur cycle. Choose an event to predict. Anything is fair game, from the next presidential election to the success of a company's product. 2, create a market. 3, buy and sell shares. 4, report the outcome. 5, claim your winnings. Okay, so what they have here is a quick overview of what it is that you need to do in order to kind of go through their main what it is that they're providing here, the steps to do so. They got it down into 5 steps. This is going to sound a little strange, but human beings recognize things in, how do I say this the right way? There's something about odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, that human beings just kind of relate to on a psychological level. And so anytime I'm designing anything, or anytime that I'm trying to compact information down into steps or kind of high level things, I try to keep it to this rule of 1, 3, 5, or 7. Here they have it, broken down into 5 steps. And so I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that I really like the fact that they have that, they're following that paradigm there, keeping it down to 5 main things that you need to know. Human beings are not good at remembering things past 5. There used to be this whole thing human beings can remember up to 7 digits at a time. That's why you have telephone numbers and license plates, or at least United States license plates that range in that about 7 characters. But the reality is that it's really around 5 things. Human beings are good at remembering about 5 things. And so if you can provide information that's broken down into 5 or less, that's good. So I need to choose an event, I need to create a market, I need to buy and sell shares, I need to report the outcome, and then I need to claim my winnings. All right, so the currencies for Augur is Ethereum and Reputation, which I think is their native token here. Fair and open technology. Augur is built from the ground up to be owned and operated by the people that use it. This is a technical reality enabled by the Ethereum blockchain and open source software. Low trading fees, user created markets, automated payouts, open to all. Okay, so join the Augur community. Okay, then they got information about questions, social, and then join the conversation on Discord. Okay, cool. So download Augur to get started, or view Augur on the Rinkeby testnet at, okay. So it looks like you can download here. I'm going to go back to the top and go through their get started button. I'm going to assume that what that's going to do is then take me to a place where I would then choose to download these again. But we're going to find out. So here we go, get started. Okay, get started. Connect to Augur by downloading and running the Augur app. So download Augur app. Will this recognize the operating system, the machine that I'm using, which is a Mac? Excuse me, what is it running? I should know these things off the top of my head. Okay, High Sierra. You'll need an Ethereum-enabled wallet to connect Augur to the Ethereum blockchain. The Augur platform currently supports MetaMask, Trezor, Ledger, and Edge. Okay, so I do have a Ledger Nano S. I'm wondering if that will work for it. All right, so download, it now takes me to this thing here where I choose the operating system that I want to download for. All right, so download and run the Augur app. All right. The second thing here, choose which Ethereum node you would like to connect to. If you'd like to connect to the Ethereum mainnet, enter the HTTP or WebSocket address for your desired node. Default configurations or testnets are running a local Ethereum node are available, or running all configurations options are editable. All right, so this is, you're starting to get into some jargon here that less tech savvy users are going to understand. Like, they might understand it in principle, but like they may never have interacted with something like something like this before, and this could become overwhelming. And this is just me thinking out loud in terms of my first impressions and thoughts about this. But this could be something that, like, kind of things that are new and different to people can scare them, and so this could kind of throw people off. Just a thought. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and download from Mac OS. Okay, throw it into my applications. So they're going to tell me that this is something that is not That's what I was referring to, just a warning, like this is something you've downloaded from the internet. All right, so connect mainnet default. All right, so this is, again, this is something where you have to be kind of in the know to understand exactly what these things mean. I like the fact that they have a default next to it here, because that's something that, at least if you're not sure what all these things mean, because I honestly don't, you can say, okay, at least they're suggesting this is the default thing that you want to go with. All right, so connect. Connected to Ethereum, connected, okay, good feedback here. Visibility into system status. Processing market data, 0.68%, show details. So I'm not sure what this means. Blocks behind, okay, blocks processed. All right, so it's letting me know how many blocks it needs to process here. It gives me the exact number of blocks that I'm behind, and it gives me the percentage. I'm assuming this is a progress bar here, which is nice. Okay, so this is good visibility into system status, knowing, what's going on, and how much longer I need to kind of wait. And they've given me 3 different kind of pieces of information here to kind of draw a conclusion on what's going on here. So that's good. I'm not sure exactly how long this will take in terms of time. So what I'm going to do is pause the cameras. and wait for this to finish doing what it's doing, and then I will come back once that has happened. All right, so I'm back, and as you can see, the processing has completed. Now, before I go any further, I need to bring up one caveat to the rest of the information that will be in this video. I actually came back yesterday and went through the entire process of setting everything up after this had finished processing. I recorded about an hour and a half worth of footage of me diving into a lot of different facets that that are part of Augur, only to have my screen recording software crash at the last minute and I lost everything. It really made my day, let me tell you. And so now I got to go back and walk through it all again. I'm hoping that I'm able to retrace my steps exactly, because there's a lot of cool stuff that I came across. The only problem will be that I won't have the same kind of candid reactions to things as I did with that original recording. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And like I said, I'm going to try to retrace my steps and do everything that I did last time. So I'm going to go ahead and open in browser here. And it brings me to this kind of landing screen here. Now, what I did yesterday when this came up is I first kind of explored the various elements on the screen here and discussed what I thought each one represented. So first off, starting on the left-hand side, you have the Augur icon here. What I expect this to be is some kind of what we refer to sometimes in the UX field as an escape hatch. Basically, when you click on this icon, or you click on an icon in the top left corner of any website, it takes you back to the home page, the landing page for that particular website. And as I found, that's what this does actually do. Below that, you have markets and you have reporting. Markets are going to be, I had assumed, would be the markets that you're betting on. Reporting did not make as much sense to me at first, but I soon realized that that's where you go and you report on all of the things that you are maybe responsible for in terms of reporting on the outcome of a particular event that people were betting on. Here you have a bunch of possibilities in terms of markets that you could bet in. So it looks like they have categories, if you will, of markets that you can go in and make bets. And if you scroll down to the bottom here, you can see that you actually have a paginated set of things here. And what I discovered is as you go through them, the number of shares per one of these options goes down. So it looks like they're listing the highest number first. All right. So then the next thing that I looked into was looking at how to connect here. It says disconnected, connect a wallet. So I opened this up and it looks like you have these 4 options. So I went through the process of trying to connect my Ledger Nano S as a wallet. I don't want to go through all of the processes again here because it didn't turn out to actually work for me. Again, I'm just super pissed that I lost the recording from yesterday because I feel like it just had such good, candid data, regarding a user such as myself trying to fumble his or her way through setting up something. But anyways, I went through the Ledger Nano. I went to the Ledger Nano S option. I opened up Ledger Live. And went through that trying to see if anything would happen. There was one thing regarding the information here. You know what? I'm going to set it up because it's just, there's certain aspects of it that I think need to be seen. What did I do with it? I'm also going to periodically stop and save my progress so far in this recording so that I don't deal with what I dealt with last time, which is what I think is just, I had too large of a file that was being saved. It was an hour and a half worth of recording, and I think it just, I don't know. All right, so I've got a Ledger Nano S here. What I'm going to do is follow the instructions here. Connect a wallet to log in Augur. Use Edge to log in with a username and password. So as you know, a new user coming into this, I did not really know what the right option was to go with here, so I kind of went with the things that I know about. I have obviously I have a Ledger. I don't have a Trezor. I don't know what MetaMask and Web3 provider is, and I didn't know what Edge was. So coming into this, I went with a thing that I recognized and knew, and so that's what I want to try to recreate today. So I think what I did was I first, I plugged this guy in and I went and I clicked on Ledger. And when I clicked on that, I got all this information here that I actually found to be, I like this. I guess that's what I want to say, is that there's a reason I like this, and I'm going to bring that up now. If anyone is ever interested in looking at information regarding user research methods, best practices, and things like that, I highly suggest you check out the Nielsen Norman Group website, nngroup.com. Nielsen Norman Group is kind of like, they were the pioneers, and they're still a leading voice in terms of research methodologies for user experience. They have set forth so many guides and precedents, and they do a lot of educational stuff and teaching people how to approach the user experience from a very methodical, scientific standpoint. But what I want to show today is their list of 10 usability heuristics. This is something they developed years ago. And a usability heuristic essentially it's like a best practice that you can abide by. So when you think through any kind of design decision, or interface design, things like that, you can try to reflect on these usability heuristics as a guide on how to, maybe tackle that and see if there's any problems with what you've done. Does it violate one of these heuristics? I'm not going to go through all of them right now, excuse me. But a few that I know that we're going to reference going forward will be visibility of system status, which is the system should always keep users informed about what's going on through appropriate feedback within reasonable time. Letting people know or have a feeling of, what should be expected with the system in terms of what it's doing, not feeling kind of like out of the loop, because what that will do is it not only keeps people uninformed, and that's agitating, but it can cause people to go and try to make adjustments on their own. Like they start clicking around because they don't know what's happening, and they could do something that potentially works against their best interest or messes something up that the system might be doing. So the one that I want to talk about with regard to this little drop down here that we see with this guy deals with help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. Error message should be expressed in plain language, no codes, precisely indicate the problem and constructively suggest a solution. So what they've done here is a good job of this particular, applying this particular heuristic, and that unable to connect, but they give you suggestions on things that could be the particular problem. Make sure that you have an unlocked Ledger wallet. And so this is one thing that, one direction that I went down yesterday. The other thing that I remember talking about is they said access Augur via HTTPS. Okay, so this is obviously it's a secure connection. Those who are very tech savvy understand web development, things like this. This is a no-brainer. But for some people, they might not quite understand. Those that are not as tech savvy, they might not understand exactly what that is. Now, what I did yesterday to see, okay, am I connected to an HTTPS? So I went up to my bar here and I looked through this. Now, I did not see that visible at the beginning of the string as you normally would see, but I do see it buried in here someplace, HTTPS. I have no idea that's what they're talking about, in relation to this, but I'm going to assume that that's what it is. There is also an HTTP, so maybe I'm not secured. I really don't know. I don't know how this applies to what it is that they're talking about here. So I've connected my Ledger. I'm going to go ahead and unlock the Ledger wallet. I think yesterday also I opened up Ledger Live, so let me get that opened up. None of this is actually going to help me succeed with this process here. I'm just showing you the steps that I went through. So I opened this up, I waited for it to synchronize. I opened up my Ethereum here, and I opened up, unlocked the ledger with my PIN. And then I opened up the Ethereum wallet. And in doing so, none of this seemed to make any kind of automatic change here where this like then said, okay, you're connected. I'm just, troubleshooting here blindly. I'm not quite sure of what my actions are or what it is that they're trying to ask me to do here. But I messed around with this for a while. I went into Manager, navigate to the dashboard of your device. So let me quit the Ethereum wallet. So I'm at the dashboard. Allow Ledger Manager on your device. So I said yes to that. And so they should then, in a minute, give me some options here. Yeah. So app catalog. Again, this probably has nothing to do with what it is that they're asking for here. I'm just showing you what me as one user out of many went through in order to try to troubleshoot what it was that this was talking about. And so I scanned through here looking for things that dealt with this and didn't find anything. And those of you who are very tech savvy with this and understand this stuff, you're probably like, God, you're an idiot. This has nothing to do with what they're talking about. But if I don't understand this, then people who are not remotely familiar with this are definitely not going to understand this. And so these are the kinds of things that you should take into consideration, when designing anything with blockchain-based technology. Is that you're dealing with there's going to be a vast set of people who aren't in the know quite yet, and you're going to have to do a better job of onboarding them to get them into your applications and tools. So anyways, I'm going to exit out of this now and go back down the direction that I ended up going yesterday. So let me unplug this little guy. Boop. All right. So what I then went to is I went to Edge. This says create an account or already have an account, log in. So I could go through the process of logging in with the account that I made yesterday, but I'm not going to. I'm going to create a brand new one. So one thing that I'm going to speak to right now before I forget about it is that when I opened up this Edge thing, I thought that I was dealing with kind of a side tool. I'm not quite sure what the overlap between Edge and Augur is. Is it something that Augur owns? Is it something that they've built themselves? I'm not quite sure what the relationship is there. But my mental model was like Edge is its own separate thing, unrelated to Augur. So anyways, I'm going to go through and I'm going to create an account now. So the first thing I need to do is choose a username. So I'm going to come up with a brand new one. This is not your email or real name. This is a username to log into your account on this and other devices. Your username and password are known only to you and never stored unencrypted. Next. Enter a 4-digit PIN. All right, so no peeking. And now we got to come up with a password. So best practices for any, login credential information, passwords, or things like that when it comes to this new field of technology is to write that stuff down on a note card. I have a stack of note cards that I keep locked up in a safe with all of my passwords and things like that for things. So I always write things down on a note card and then save it for later and make duplicates and put them in separate places. So I'm going to go ahead and create this card here. I label it Edge / Augur, A-U-G-U-R. My screen name or ID, write that down. My PIN. And now I'm going to have a password, and I'm hoping that this keyboard is blocking your view so I don't have to spend too much time censoring things out later on. So let me come up with a password. And then I hit next. Write that down first. Next. One thing that I've always liked that's not done here, but I do like when I see it in other places, is something that indicates that your passwords match. I know it's a little thing, but I think it helps people to realize, okay, everything's good. I didn't accidentally type something in wrong. Not that anything would happen, you know, I would assume that if they had pressed next and they had typed them in wrong, the system would be like, these don't match, but and therefore it's not incredibly necessary, but again, it's like one of these little things that I feel like helps users get that little feedback that they know that their actions have been correct. All right, so when I got to this screen yesterday, my first reaction was like, oh shit, what did I do wrong? There's this thing here, but that's good because what they want you to do is read this because it's important. If you lose your account information, you'll lose access to your funds permanently. Write down and store it securely. So this is something that I've talked about many times before in my reviews of various wallets and things, is that we're dealing with a different paradigm of login credentials, and people, you know, are used to this thing that everything's stored someplace else so that they can just say, hey, I forgot my password. Can you send me my password? And something gets emailed to them like, oh, that's great. And it's all, you know, works out for them. It doesn't work like that here. But as we'll see going forward, if I remember correctly, they do set up some systems to be able to recover stuff, which is nice. But anyways, they're letting you know here that this is on you. Write it down and store it securely. They also give you this option of showing you your account info that you just plugged in to allow you to double check and make sure that you wrote it down correctly if you hadn't written it down already, or give you a second chance to do so now. So I really, you know, strongly give a thumbs up, a strong thumbs up on that one for them setting that into their system. So I'm gonna click on that, show me my account information. I'm just gonna, like, you know, double check, make sure I got it all. I don't know if my username is case sensitive, but like I wanna make sure that, you know, I might have written it down in all caps instead of all lowercase, which is being displayed to me here. So I'm gonna make that note on my little card here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit finish. Account created. Your Augur account has been created. Your username and password are now known only to you and cannot be reset by Augur. Would you like to set up password recovery questions to reset your account in case of a forgotten password? So this is the first time I've seen something like this going through this kind of process where the tool has set up some kind of situation where you can recover things if need be using I think they said password recovery questions. So yeah, so you know, using password recovery questions, allowing you access to being able to recover this kind of information. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up this because I did go through this yesterday. I'm gonna do it more quickly than I did yesterday though. What is the anniversary date with your first spouse? Who is your childhood best friend? Blah, 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 blah. Let's go with this. And I'm going to write these questions down with the answer. all that information is together. All right. Submit. All right, so the next thing here is to complete account recovery setup, you must save an account recovery token. This will be required to recover your account in addition to your username and recovery answers. Please enter your email below to send yourself the recovery token. All right, so I'm going to enter in my email address here. And then they give you these options of how you want to send it, which I think is really interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and send with Gmail. And what it says here is, please click the link below from a mobile device with Edge installed to initiate account recovery for username, blah, 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 blah. And here are the links, whether you're on an iOS device or whether you're on Android. So this led me to believe that this Edge tool is something that you can actually put on your mobile phone. I haven't actually done that yet, but I will actually try that later on and hook up a device camera and kind of run through that and provide my thoughts on that. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and send this to myself. And now I'm gonna double check that it has come through. Yes, so it's here. So on my device, password recovery setup complete. So you can see here, it's come through on my email account and has these links. Even though this is interesting that this is not an actual link there, so I'm curious how that will work. Maybe, I wonder if that would light up if I actually had a the Edge on my phone. My concern here is, hopefully you can see it. I know this is a fisheye lens, so there's probably foots of space around this, but this link is not active, so I'm not sure what it is that I would need to do in the case that I wanted to recover. Here you have a link for Android, but there's nothing here for iOS in terms of some sort of action that I can take. Anyways, I'll explore that later on in a different video. All right, so password recovery set up, complete, done. So manage your account name, blah, blah, blah. So you can change your PIN, change your password, set up, change recovery. I don't want to do any of that stuff right now, so I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. And at this point in time, I'm going to take a quick break and save this footage and make sure I don't lose it all again. All right, so I'm back, everything's saved, good to go. All right, so now that we have kind of set up the whole kind of account login and things like that and gotten our passwords and stuff written down, we are now in the a connected state of Augur here. We have the addition of some other options here on the left-hand side menu. We can see that we're connected up here. And this is still the same. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm trying to remember what steps I took yesterday just so I can try to go back through them the same way I did then. I think what I did was I went back through these options here and kind of talked about my thoughts on them. So I'll do that. So I clicked on markets here, and then I saw, this list of all these different categories of markets that you could choose from, and I went through and I explored a bunch of these things. So I'm going to click on sports. I'm going to look at tennis, and so here is one that is tied to tennis, and who will earn year-end #1 ranking in 2018 ATP Tour. And they give you a bunch of options here. So here is, my thought on this going, excuse me, let me back up. My initial thoughts on this when I came to this yesterday were, okay, that's great. How do I make a bet? How do I bet on this? So I went to, what looked like the main action button here, call to action, trade. So I went to this here, and I looked at this screen, and I was like, I don't understand what it is to do. What do I do? Where do I go to make a trade here? There's nothing on the screen that provides that information to me. Oh wait, if I scroll down, all of a sudden there's all this information. Okay, now that might seem like an obvious thing. Just scroll down, idiot. You'd be surprised how often people will move over a page because they don't see what is below the fold. And by the fold is what I mean is this bottom point here, what is not being presented. And so in this situation, you have all of your actionable information listed below the fold. Now, I don't know if this would look different on a smaller screen. Obviously, we're dealing with a very large monitor that I'm looking at here, and therefore the spread of this could be different than what it would look like on a different device. But the point that I want to make here is this. When you have things like this listed below the fold, it increases the possibility that people might not find it or see it or know to scroll down. I was having problems with my scroll wheel yesterday, which was nothing to do with Augur, but like it was my own equipment issues. And I was playing with the scroll wheel and it didn't do anything. And so my first thought was, oh, there's nothing to scroll with. And then I realized later on that no, the scroll wheel's broken. So I manually started pulling the stuff down and notice all the stuff. So if you have all of your actionable stuff below the fold, there's a chance that your users might not see it, might not know it's there, and therefore not take the next steps to complete a particular task or objective here of setting or placing a bet. My suggestion is, if possible, make it so that there is some sort of affordance, and an affordance is a term that we use in the UX field to kind of say a piece of visual information that indicates to the user there's something that you can do, something more there, something that will help them guide them. So it doesn't have to be a lot. Like it could just be like a little bit of something below here, but enough information that shows the user that, hey, there's more down there. You should scroll down, and kind of indicates to them with the subtle feedback that there's more to do there. So that's kind of one little side thought here. I'm going to go ahead and say now that overall I find this interface to be fantastic. It's very simple. It's very minimal in terms of all the information that is presented on a particular page. I love the menu here. It's straight to the point. So props on that. Going back to our heuristics here, the aesthetic and minimalist design is one of them. Dialogue should not contain information which is irrelevant or rarely needed. Every extra unit of information in a dialogue competes with the relevant units of information and diminishes their relative visibility. So again, going back to this page here, this whole menu system, everything's very simple, very minimalistic, only the things that you need to worry about. And so from a user experience perspective, Augur, you've done a great job of that. But try not to have things below the fold like that because it might throw some people off. All right, so placing a bet here, add funds to begin trading. So for me to be able to complete anything, I have to add some funds. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer some Ether to here. And to do that, I need to go back into my Ledger wallet. So clicking here, add funds, it brings me directly to this account page. All right, so if we go back, we are in the markets, and if I wanted to, I could go to account, and that's where I would get this information. But we were in markets, and you have to add funds. All right, so going back to our heuristics, why do I like this here? It talks about help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors, flexibility, and efficiency of use. To me, these are kind of what you can apply here in terms of ways to, what am I trying to say? The user is kind of into this corner, this little, they're going down this rabbit hole. And they're at a point where they can't actually do anything further because they don't have any funds. So instead of having them go through the process, of figuring out why they're not able to do something, why they can't place a bet, they've very simply said add funds to begin trading, and not only have they told you how to do that, but they've given you this kind of escape hatch to get back to where they need to go in order to add those funds. So, props on that. So add funds takes me to account, and here I can see that I have an address to deposit things to. So what I want to do, wow, excuse me. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to cough real quick and get this over with. So what I need to do is copy this address and be able to send some funds to it. My understanding would be that I'm able to send either Ethereum or RAP, I think it's reputation is what it stands for, to this particular address. I'm going to go with Ethereum. I'm going to copy the address to my clipboard. I love this little icon here to be able to copy the clipboard. Something that I've been thinking about, and this is from another project I've been working on that deals with payment gateways for e-commerce. You got to think about the mechanisms that allow a user to get this address to a place where it is needed to be plugged in order to send funds. And so what I mean by that is, let's say that I don't have any wallets on this computer here. My wallets are on this computer, or my wallets are on this device. Think about the steps that it would take me in order to get that address to one of these devices. You can copy it like I did, and you could, what I normally do is I then place it into my iMessage, right? Because all my Mac devices have access to my iMessage, and so I can quickly send it as a message to myself, right? I've emailed it to myself before as well. So these are kind of what I refer to as these mechanisms that you use to move that information into a position where it can be then applied. And so one thing that I think would behoove users and help them move this is perhaps other means or ways to send this, like having like that one of the universal symbols is not, it's the opposite. It's an arrow that points outwards, like so people recognize that as something that means to send. You see that in a lot of iOS stuff. I'm not as familiar with Android. I'm not sure if they have like a similar icon usage, but some sort of thing that would allow you, if possible, programmatically possible, to send that information to your message directly or email. Like you click on it, it opens up some sort of modal that allows you to either quickly just send that along with, in the case of a payment gateway, along with the price that you need to pay to your messages or through an email so that you can quickly get it to your device. Another thing that I came across while investigating some things with payment gateways, and again, this doesn't exactly apply to this, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud about it because I thought that it was interesting, was that they had an option to, you were looking at a payment gateway, you had the address that you needed to pay to, and you had the amount. But they had an option where you could click and it would plug that information into an app that you had on your phone. So let's say I had Coinbase, or I had BRD wallet, or I had some other mobile wallet on my phone, and I was doing this on my phone. I could click that icon and it would automatically plug all that information into that wallet. So all I had to do was hit send and the funds were transferred. I found that to be a very brilliant way of dealing with this issue of having to find a mechanism to move this information around. Because what happens is every time you rely on the user to move this information into that position, you're opening up the possibility for error. Now, I have no statistics on how often errors occur, but I'm just thinking about it from that perspective. If you require the user to move information, it opens the chance of error. I've had situations where I was on a device that didn't even allow me to really copy things, and I had to manually write that down, this wallet address down, so that I could then plug it into another computer. I had to deal with a lot of these stake boxes that I've got going on over here, where I was trying to fund a wallet, and I had no easy way of getting that address from these devices onto the device where I had a wallet to pay with. Now I've lost my train of thought. Where was I? Who am I? Where am I? Moving information. That's where it was. Okay, so the heuristic that this deals with is recognition rather than recall. Minimizing the user's memory load by making objects, actions, and options visible. The user should not have to remember information from one part of the dialogue to another. Instructions for the use of the system should be visible or easily retrievable whenever appropriate. So, and also error prevention. Even better than good error message is a careful design which prevents a problem from occurring in the first place. Either eliminate error-prone conditions or check for them and present users with a confirmation option before they commit to the action. So the definitions of these, aren't written in a way that deals specifically with this, but this to me is like what this applies to. It's like you want to limit your user's memory load and the actions that they have to take in order to complete something. And here you're dealing with a very extensive thing that someone would need to remember. And also you want to deal with good error prevention, reducing the possibility for them to cause some sort of error. And so this, copy to clipboard is great because I don't have to remember this stuff. I just copy it very quickly and I'm going to then plug it into my Ledger wallet so that I can send funds from there and I don't have to manually write any of this stuff down. Okay, so I got that copied to the clipboard and now I need to open up my Ledger and send some funds. Now I'm not going to send that much because I'm not actually going to place any bets, but I do want to have that information available so that I can show you what the next steps look like. So paste it in the address. I want to double check that that's right. All right, so go ahead and continue. Make sure everything's connected. Okay, got all that. Continue. Confirm transaction. Transaction sent. Okay, fabulous. So now I can get out of that. And this should show up relatively quickly if I remember from doing this last time. I'm gonna go ahead and just exit out of this. I don't think I'm gonna need this anymore. And there it is. Okay, came through pretty quick. Something else that I'll talk about real quickly now because I know it was something I talked about last time I was doing this. I don't remember the point in time in which I talked about it, but I'm trying to think about the best way to bring it up. You have what I'll just say are your brand name cryptocurrencies or tokens. Yeah, Bitcoin. Everyone's heard of Bitcoin. Most people out of those will have also heard of Ethereum. REP may not be something that a lot of people have heard about. And you would have to understand that that's, the Augur token are related to Augur. But I'm trying to think about this from the perspective of someone who is very new to cryptocurrency and has just heard about this new platform where you can bet on anything that you want to bet on using cryptocurrency. and let's say that they've, using Coinbase, figured out how to go in and purchase Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that. They would not know how to get REP. I know that you have options to do that here, shapeshift to REP, but unless you're familiar with what these things do, you wouldn't necessarily know how to get to this particular token. Now, I know there's not much you can really do about that. Everything's set up on, using this within this system, but it's just, one of those things that I'm trying to point out as what could possibly be a barrier to adoption or use for users who are not as steeply ingrained in cryptocurrency and that whole area, that whole culture, is understanding the difference between these two and how to make these exchanges happen. I don't really have a solution for it. I don't really know exactly where I'm going with it. I'm just trying to talk about it out loud, like what could throw people off. Like, I understand Ethereum. Yeah, I know that. I read about that. I don't know what this is. How do I get that? So if you could, I know that with Shapeshift, they have the, KYC kind of being applied to it, know your customer, consumer, where you have to kind of go through a whole rigmarole to make this happen. I'm not going to go down that path right now, but it would be nice to have a more simplistic means to convert this to that for people, and having some, I don't want to say like a video tutorial, but something that helps guide them through that process. Like, oh, you need REP for this. Click here to make that, that transfer occur. Anyways, I digress. All right, so I'm going to go back now to these markets here. That has some Ethereum to deal with. Will Donald Trump be impeached by the end of 2019? Where was I? I was doing sports. And where's tennis? Was it sports? Was it sport? Tennis. That's interesting to have two different categories here, sports and sport. I'm not sure what the difference is. Who are in this? Okay, so trade. Again, got to go down here. Select an outcome to begin placing an order. Now, yesterday when I was dealing with this, I dealt with simply yes and no trades, where you had a yes and no option. And my biggest complaint about that, and I'll try to find an example of that in a second, was the way that you had to go about placing the bet required a foundational knowledge of trading, like market trades and that kind of lingo. Where if you wanted to bet no, what you essentially were doing was shorting a share of this particular market. So we're dealing with jargon and complexity that is just barely kind of beyond my understanding of things. I don't gamble, I don't bet, I don't do a lot of day trading, that kind of thing. I read about it, I try to keep myself informed with it, but I'm not as quick to, pick up on that jargon because I don't deal with it day in and day out. And so my worry here is that if you use such jargon, it's going to kind of throw people off. And I'll get to an example of that in a moment. And what that, to me, goes against in these heuristics here, is kind of the match between system and the real world, and also maybe a little bit of consistency in standards. But match between system and real world, the system should speak the user's language with words, phrases, and concepts familiar to the user, rather than system-oriented terms. Follow real-world conventions, making information appear in a natural and logical order. Consistency in standards, users should not have to wonder whether different words, situations, or actions mean the same thing. The third one that I would think kind of ties into this situation is flexibility and efficiency of use. Accelerators unseen by the novice user may often speed up the interaction for the expert user, that such systems can cater to both inexperienced and experienced users, allowing users to tailor frequent actions. All right, so what do I mean here? The problem that I was having is that, I'm just going to go find an example of this. I'm seeing like I'm going in a million directions. Politics. Will Donald Trump be impeached by whatever? This should be a yes/no kind of thing, right? So click on this. Here I am. Do I want to trade? How do I say I agree yes? How do I say I agree but no? and do that. It took me a while yesterday to figure out that this little guy here. Don't think, and what really annoys me is I got to keep it here, and I'll talk about that again in a second. Don't think this event is going to happen. Bet against this event occurring by selling shares of Yes, even though you don't own them. Learn more at docs.augur.net/short position. All right. So the first thing that I complained about here is the fact that I can't quickly go and click on that. This is going to require me to get that information there, plug it into a browser tab so that I can view that. So docs.augur.net/#short-position. So let me go and do that. All right, so the first thing that I noticed yesterday when I did this was that I think when I actually came in here and did it yesterday, why is your code being showed there? That was not there yesterday. Is that when I clicked on this information, it did not actually take me to that place. And I understand that this is probably what are they called, anchors in HTML that like allow you to go right down to a part of the page that you need to go to. But it did not take me here. It did not take me directly to the short position yesterday. And again, I don't know why this is here. Let's try this again. I know I'm getting way off topic from where I started from. All right, today it brought me directly to it here when I did that, but it didn't the first time I did it, and so it took me a while to figure out where it was. So here we're talking about short positions, and this is where I mean like where people, if they don't understand what this means, what a short position is, or what the mechanics are about it. And I remember when I was first reading about trading and learning about how you short something, it took me a while to wrap my mind around the mechanics of that. It seems so simple once you get it and if you're familiar with trading, but for someone who is not, the idea of shorting a position, that just seems like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean that you basically, when you're trading, you're borrowing someone else's asset that you sell to get the cash, assuming that what's going to happen is that it's going to go down, and you use that cash to buy that asset at a lower price. You give that asset back to the person you borrowed it from, and you keep the money that you're saving. For you to make a bet here in this situation, you have to understand those mechanics to a degree and apply it here. I don't know if that's exactly what's happening here, but you have to kind of understand that to a degree to understand that what you're doing is you're shorting. Instead of saying, yes, I think that Mr. Donald Trump is going to be impeached, or no, Donald Trump is going to be not impeached, and placing a bet based off of that. And so going back to what I was saying here with this match between system and real world, consistency and standards, and then the flexibility and efficiency of use. You're going to have people who are familiar with trading lingo and understand, the mechanics of that, and therefore have the framework in their head, the mental model in their head that will allow them to understand what they need to do here to make this happen. And then you're going to have people who do not have that information in their head. They do not have a framework to go off of. And so a lot of this could be very confusing to them. And so that's what I mean. You get into what's called what is it called? The cognitive theory of there's theories in cognitive psychology talking about the expertise reversal effect, which essentially means that the information that an expert needs in order to learn something is going to be very different than that of a novice or a user. A user requires more information to help establish a framework that they can then put more information on top of as they learn, whereas an expert already has that built, and therefore the information you need to present to them. Cognitive load theory. I think that has to do with cognitive load theory. The information that needs to be presented to an expert is very different than that of a beginner. And so one thing that I would just suggest, I don't know how you would do this, Augur, going forward, but you might want to have two kind of different ways of interacting with this, the expert level and then the beginner level. And the beginner level would have to be very dumbed down in a situation where they don't have to understand that they're shorting a share of this in order to place a no bet. They just can say, no, I don't think he's going to be impeached, or yes, I think he's going to be impeached, and then they can place their bet. And in the background, what you're doing is the same thing as if they were to go through this rigmarole of buying or selling and shorting. But to them, it's just like, I'm just choosing the outcome that I think is going to happen. I wager my bet, and that's it. So that's where I was going with when I was talking, what the direction I was going with, or what I was trying to talk about when I brought up these three things earlier, as it applies to these yes or no kind of bets here, where how do I just simply bet no? I have to short, and that it took me a while to figure out how to do that. And therefore, if it took me a while, it will take people who are not as familiar, perhaps even longer, if not prevent them from doing it. And therefore, you should probably have two different ways of allowing people to come in here and make bets. Those that are a little bit more savvy with the jargon regarding trading and things like that, and a way for those who are not as savvy to do it based on, yes, no, blah, 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 blah. All right, so going back to this tennis one. Here again, everything's below the fold, so look at that. You want to select a possible outcome. Select an outcome to begin placing an order. See, this is nice and clean. It's simple explaining what it is that I need to do. Sell an outcome to begin placing an order. Select an outcome to begin placing an order. Buy or sell. So I'm curious now that, I've thought through this a bit, if this is making more sense to me simply because I have foundational knowledge, or if this particular, what do they call it? This like the yes, no, and then this is multiple choice. That the way that they set this up is just simply easier for me to understand as a user. But you select something, right? Outcome, nadir, I'm going to buy. Now, if I sell, does that mean I'm betting that he doesn't make it? If I buy, does that bet that I think he's going to make it? That's where I get confused about what it is. How are you selecting the option that you want and betting in the direction that you want to bet in? If I thought, Federer was going to win, how do I say I think he's going to win? Because that's different than saying, well, I think that these people will lose according to the way that this is set up. I buy one for Federer in order to indicate that I think that he's going to win. Do I sell one for Federer to indicate that I think he's going to lose? Or is that taken care of if I buy one thinking that one of these other guys are going to win? Because obviously, not all of them can win. There's only one can. Therefore, saying that this guy is going to win means that he would lose. So how do I make those bets here? That is very confusing to me. And again, I don't have, I don't gamble that often. I've never really dealt with that, quite honestly. I think I once went to a horse race and my friends took my money and click things on the screen. That was like the closest I've ever really come to that. So for me, ignorant to how this stuff works, this is very confusing to me. I don't have the confidence to place a bet here because I don't know if what it is that I'm clicking on and how I'm setting it up is the right way to indicate what I believe is going to be the outcome of this market. So I'm not going to actually bet anything here. So to recap, you probably have gotten my point now because I've said it 100 times. You need to find some way to present how to make a bet to people who are not as familiar with this. You got to present it to them in a way that they can understand it, so that they feel more confident in making bets, so that they actually will make a bet, and so that if they do make a bet, it's not going to be in a way not aligned with what they had actually meant, what was their intention. Okay, so after that, I'm going to take a break here and save and make sure I've got everything. All right, I double checked, made sure everything has been recorded and has been saved appropriately. By the way, and this is completely not what we're talking about here, but I just want to give a shout out to ScreenFlow, which is the software I've been using for, since I started doing UX research back in 2011 or 12. So talking 6, 7, maybe almost 8 years now that I've been using ScreenFlow as a means to record my screens when I go through things, or if I'm having like a one-on-one interview with somebody over a web conferencing app, or whether I'm having someone test something out and doing usability testing. I love ScreenFlow. It provides a lot of great options. And here you see my recording from earlier. Me testing things out. It also gives you the option to like have an extra peripheral devices, so you can record like cameras and things like that, as you can see here. Anyways, love ScreenFlow. If anybody's ever interested in doing, looking for an application to do some kind of quick and easy screen recording, and with like your basic grunt editor tools to fix things, ScreenFlow is a great application. So there's my shout out to that. All right, so I'm back here. The next thing that I want to do is I'm going to check out portfolio. I'm going to look at reporting, but the main thing that I want to do that I did yesterday, want to make sure we get through here, is creating a market. So portfolio, let's look here, positions, my markets, favorites, transactions, reporting. Favorites, I think, deal with like these stars. If we went back to markets here and we looked at something, you can see a star. I'm going to go ahead and star that. And if I go back to my portfolio and I look at favorites, then that should be down here. So really awesome, simple things that the Augur platform has provided to allow you to save things and quickly go back to them, because this whole market mess, this is a lot of things that you can go down in order to find something. So the ability to save things via a star and get back to them very quickly by going to your favorites is that's good. All right. Reporting. There are no markets available to report on. Open reporting, there are no markets in open reporting. Upcoming reporting, there are no upcoming markets for you to report on. So essentially, if you create a market or something that you're betting on here, as we'll see in a moment, there's different options for how you choose how that gets resolved, or how you report on the outcome of that. It could be something that you have to report on yourself, or I think that there are things that could trigger it as well, but we'll go through that process now. Anyways, this is where you would probably go, my assumption is where you would go reporting. If you had things that you had to manually report on, you would find them listed here, and you would put in that information to then, allow the, I'm just gonna say that market or that trade to be completed. All right, so let's go to create here. New market question. And so my thoughts from yesterday when I first came here is I looked at this, and my what I deduced is that this is like your template for, because this looks like the things I've been looking at before in other markets. It's just not filled out. And then below here, you see that there are things that you can fill out. You scroll down, there are more. So this is an example of having a good affordance. Things are not below the fold. Even though not everything is presented, there's enough presented here for you to know that there is more down there, and therefore like you have to keep filling it out, because some people might be like, oh, here's that edit icon, I've seen this before. Why am I not able to get in here and edit this template? All right, so we're gonna go through and do a market question. So I'm gonna set up the same question that I did yesterday, and that is, will red coins, red ID, be integrated into Instagram by the end of 2019. Now, I don't remember that's the exact wording that I went with, but that was along the lines of it. Now, those of you who are not familiar with Redcoin and RedID, Redcoin is a cryptocurrency it's a proof of stake based cryptocurrency you can stake and you can earn more, but its whole use case is geared towards micro tipping of content found in social media. So I'll give you a quick example of that. Let me bring up Google Chrome here. Again, I'm going on a little little side discussion here, but I find it interesting to bring it up. So RedID allows you to attach a screen name to a wallet, to a Redcoin wallet, and then that sits as a browser plugin or extension in the Chrome browser. I think that might also work for Firefox at this point. It's relatively recent that they put this out. I don't even know if they're in technically version 1 yet. They're still kind of, I think, 0.9 as they've been calling it. But essentially, you create a handle or a screen name. I use ones that I've been using for all of my social media accounts. You pay for it, and then what that allows you to have happen is if you post content, people can tip you for that content directly. And to give you an example of that, let me open up Twitter. I don't use Twitter, though I do have accounts. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna find just some sort of topic that we can look at. Wednesday wisdom, right? Now, if you look at this feed here, you can see this little tip button here with the Redcoin icon. One down here, one down here. If I were to click on this, and let's look at this person, Eric, whatever his name is. Send Redcoin tip to Eric. And how much? Now, there's no address sent in here, placed in here, and it also says unable to send tip, probably because the user is not registered on this social network. So this guy does not have a RedID that he has created and therefore and tied to his Twitter account, and therefore I'm not able to tip him directly. Now, in the case that he had set one up, his address would be shown here. I could say, I like this content, I'm going to tip you X amount of Redcoin, and it would then go into his wallet. So right now, there are integrations for RedID for Twitter. Obviously, it's all done through Chrome. This would not show up if I opened up like a Safari or another browser. You wouldn't see this. So what I'm saying, and the bet that I'm trying to make here, is that will RedID be available for Instagram by 2019, by the end of 2019? And technically there's two ways that could happen. One is like the way that they're doing it here, where you have this browser extension. But what I really want to see is it just to be native within like the Instagram application. Like that tipping button here that we see here would be in your Instagram feed as an option by default. Like it's just there. You wouldn't have to have your Chrome extension. Like it's basically Instagram would have to adopt this this concept and this technology and integrate it into their platform so people could tie their RedID to it and allow it to be tipped directly through the Instagram application on their phone, as well as their web app. But basically, that kind of integration without the need for this extension. That's hopefully down the road for the Redcoin team. That's what their goal is to have this kind of integrated. But that level of integration that's down the road. It's going to take a while. But that's the kind of bet that I'm trying to make here. It's like, will Redcoin's ID be integrated Instagram by the end of 2019? All right, so I've got my market question in there. A category. So here, when I came here yesterday, help users find your market by defining this category. My thought is, what kind of categories are available to me? Suggested categories. There's nothing here. Now, as I typed in, we could say tech, Taiwan election, and 7 more. Let me see what that is. Trump, Tour de France, TV, Telegram, tennis, tits and ass, Twitter. So there's a lot of things based off this letter T that are available to me. My thought here is, this is great, this is fine, it works. it might be nice to have possible suggestions as a drop down here being shown, so that people could quickly look at the things that are available to them. I'm sure people, have in the past filled out forms where it asks them, like, what industry are you in, right? What is your job? And so then they have like all these categories that you can pick from, and you find something that somewhat reflects what you can do, but it doesn't give you the option to come up with your own. I'm kind of thinking about that in a way here, where it's like, let me see what you have available that I can choose from, so that I can put that in. So I'm going to type in TE, and okay, tech. Fine, let me use tech, categories tech. It doesn't allow me to create my own category. And then tags here, I'm not sure why there's a limit of 2, but they give you 2 options for tags. So I'm going to put in red coin and red-ID. So next outcome. All right, so now you choose the market type. Is this a yes/no question? Is this a multiple choice or a numerical range? I find this to be very interesting. I like how they have that kind of set up. You're kind of, narrowing down your options here with what it is that you're going to be doing with this particular question, or this market. So I'm going to go with the yes/no. We had talked about that. The only thing that I have not covered in this video, and I'm probably not going to, is the idea of a numerical range. We talked about the multiple choice with the tennis example, and then the yes/no with the Will Trumpian PhD example. But we'll just go with yes/no here. So additional details. So here I put in more information about like what constitutes like this actually becoming. What am I trying to say? More details about what I mean by the question or the market that I'm putting forth. So I said something like, will Redcoin's Red ID be integrated into Instagram by the end of 2019? So here, what I see this as is a way to explain in more detail what you exactly mean by that. And so I'll say, integration means that the Redcoin tip button will be displayed natively and without the need for a Chrome, browser. Display natively. Integrating means that the Redcoin tip button will be displayed natively in the Instagram web and mobile applications without the need for a browser plugin. So hopefully that more clearly defines the terms here. Integration means that the Redcoin tip button will be displayed natively in the Instagram web and mobile applications without the need for a browser plugin, which is the case now. You need to have a browser plugin for that to show up, and it's only going to show up in the web version of it, not your native Instagram application on your phone. What I'm saying here is that you would see that in line with like the and save options that you see within Instagram currently. To be more specific, let me just open up my Instagram account and show you what I mean by that. This will save me time trying to edit out identifying information later on. But essentially, as you see here, you have a like, the heart, you have a comment, you have a share, and you have like a save underneath all the images, on Instagram. What I'm saying is in that, next to the like, you would see like a tipping button for Redcoin. That's what I mean by this kind of native integration. That it's right there, and it doesn't require you to have some sort of plugin. It's just Instagram has adopted it. All right. So next I go to resolution. Resolution source, general knowledge, outcome will be detailed on public website. So I think that this is general knowledge, like, because obviously you would have, that would be kind of shared. And designated reporter, myself. So I would be the one that comes in and reports on whether or not this has happened. So expiration date, I had set at the end of 2019. Now what I noticed yesterday when I went through this is that they've actually, and you wouldn't know this until, what happened, let me just go through with what I did last time. I said the end of 2019. So let me go to the end of 2019. So December 2019. You'll notice that I cannot select any of these dates. In fact, that stopped being available to me come April 2019. So the farthest that I can go is April 16th of 2019. Why? Well, I finally found this here. Market expiration date, Augur still experimental software creating markets past 6 months has been disabled to discourage long-running markets. So my initial bet is now voided because I can't say that I think it's going to happen by the end of 2019 because I can't set that as an actual date. Now, I don't know how to really discuss this I don't know if it's, an issue. I must say this is a user experience issue. I think they provide an excellent reason for it. This is still experimental software, and we can't handle things that are that far in the distance. But this would require me to now go back and change my wording to be specific to the options that are available to me. Luckily, they give you the ability to go back very easily without the need to redo information. So I'll say by the end of March 2019, or by March 31st, 2019. And that jumped because apparently the amount of information I placed here made it go down to the next line. Okay, just curious why all of a sudden shifted like that. Will Bitcoin's Red ID be integrated into Instagram by March 31st, 2019? So next outcome. See, all this information stays the same. That's fantastic. I don't have to redo it since I had to come back. And so now I'm going to go back in here. Expiration date is going to be March 31st. And we'll say that this is what hour? 12 a.m. All right, so as soon as it turns March 31st, that's when it gets cut off. Next, liquidity. Market creator fee. So you can add a market creator fee. Add order for initial liquidity. Recommended for adding liquidity to market. So this is where I kind of got a little confused yesterday when I was doing this. I wasn't quite sure what are okay, market creator fee. What should I put here? I'm not sure what that should be. You can add any percent, can do 100%. Market creator fee must be between 0 and 50. Okay, so they should probably have a little question mark here that allows you to understand that, like they've done so very well with other things. But at least what they've done here is they do provide some sort of error, some feedback here about the error and provide you with suggestions on what needs to be fixed. So I applaud them on that. So 0 to 50, let's just say it's 50% because I want my money. Okay, add order for initial liquidity, recommended for adding liquidity to market, buy or sell shares. So again, because I'm not as, this all goes back to my understanding of what it means to say, yes, I think this is going to happen, or no, I think this is not going to happen. After doing some research into this, what I think means, if I think that, yes, this is going to happen, then I buy. If I think, no, this is not going to happen, then I sell. But I'm not sure if that's the kind of thing that I need to be doing right now, and if that, does adding add an order for initial liquidity, does that correspond to whether or not it's a yes or no, or does there just need to be money in there for this thing to go forward? I'm not really sure. I don't know what that means. And so that's kind of where I got to yesterday. So then, actually, I think I put some stuff in here. So, one share, limit price. How much Ethereum do I have? Okay. Bid, yes. One share, list limit price, Ethereum cost that. Okay. All right, so this is where I got to yesterday. I got a little thrown off. Okay, so confirm market, validity bond, no show bond. See, I don't. Where do these numbers come from? What do they mean? I'm not really sure what those things mean. I do know that I have insufficient REP to create this market. But I don't know why do I need that? No show bond 1 point, like do I need, is this the amount that I need here? Is 1.186 REP? This is, yeah, this is what's kind of confusing to me as to what, I'm not sure what it is that I need. And all I know is that I have insufficient REP to create this market. And I'm assuming that what I need is 1.186 REP. So what I would suggest here for Augur is to do kind of a similar thing to what I came across earlier, where I got to a place where I wanted to trade, but I didn't have any money there, so they just took me directly to a place to add that. So maybe having something here where I could quickly go to my account here and get the address for me to send REP to my account so that I could have it. Or if I have enough Ethereum here to cover that I could then switch to REP, make it so that I could activate the shapeshift to REP, which is I would assume is a way to say, okay, I got this much Ethereum, let me turn it into REP. That's where you would go to do that. But allowing that to be right here. Also, I like the fact that this stays where I last left off when I go back to create. So that's awesome, being able to go back to where you last left off and not have to recover from that. That's good. So having that option here directly might be beneficial. Anyways. So that's where I last left off, and that's kind of where, that's where I ended yesterday when I was recording. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of call it quits. I'm going to go back and cancel this out here just so that nothing's going through. And something else that might be nice is a quick and easy way to cancel this. Like as you're going through, and you kind of give up and being like, I want something that I know when I click this, it's going to clear this off of, it's going to take this away. I'm done with this. I don't feel like doing this. I want to abandon this. All right. How do you do that very quickly here? How do you stop doing this or here's another one. How do you save it for later? So maybe having the ability to say, I'm not quite done setting up this market yet. Let me save it for later so that I can come back to it and finish it up would be good. And then that way you would have maybe some things with where you create, you can kind of pick off from where you last started, with something, your saved markets that you can continue or continue creating a new one. Because I'm not sure how I would be able to get out of this, either to just get out of it completely because I don't want to continue with this market, or I get out of it because I want to save it for later at a point in time where I'll finish it up, or I want to rethink how I word this. But I don't want to lose the information I have put in. Having the ability to do that, within this would be good to be able to come back and deal with it later. So I think that's it. Overall, I really applaud Augur team for the way that they have put this together. The very simple and minimalistic approach to the design is fantastic. I found that the steps to get yourself up and running, the downloading of the application to your desktop, going through the process of getting connected, the process of setting up username credentials were fantastic. It walks you through that process, and it alerts you to the dangers of losing your information. It even provided you with the option of setting ways to get that information back, which I haven't seen in previous wallets. So yeah, good applause on that. My main things that I'm concerned about are things being below the fold. That's a simple thing. Using jargon that is not familiar with people who are not that familiar with trading and betting, and not providing people, and if you are going to go with that, not providing people with ways to educate themselves on how that all works so that they can build their own mental model. So having like little video overviews of like what these things mean, especially like saying, okay, if you think no, this is what you need to do to make that bet. Going back to the tennis example, if you were to come here and you go to trade and you get down here, having something here that says, don't understand how to trade, watch this. And so it would come up with a video being like, okay, you're dealing with a multiple choice one. If you want to bet that, option, whatever is going to be the winner or whatever, this is how you do that. If you think that option B is going to be the winner, this is how you do that. If you think that they're going to be the loser, this is how you do that. And explaining to people how they go about making those bets so that they can feel confident in them, knowing that they did it the right way, and that it's not like, oh shit, I didn't understand and I set it up the wrong way and now I've lost money, even though what I had intended to happen was ended up to be the right way for how the market played out, right? Like I intended for this to be the winner, but the way that I set up my bet was not the way to do that. Anyways, and also I think the other thing that I was talking about is just like the concept of like switching Ethereum to REP, making it quick and easy for people to do that. Not that you haven't, because that is available here with the shapeshift, but just kind of helping people understand, like, or allowing people to do that more easily throughout the process, especially like where we were in creating the market, where also I didn't have enough, and having jumping off points there to allow you to quickly exchange into REP so that you have it available. Yeah. All right, well, this has been fun, and I hope it's been informative, so I'll go ahead and turn the cameras off now.